if you're forced with it, and they're like, "Hey, you get to pick. You got to pick from these two channels. It's only two channels. You got to pick from these two. You go on Food Network or HGTV. You got it. You're
Oh,
forced to
dude,
pick.
I'm a Network connoisseur. That's like my.
Is that easy for you?
It's top 5. Like in my channel surfing, it would be a top 5 choice for me. There's no doubt.
Those two are hard for me, man. I can slide into Triple D for hours, but I can slide into House Hunters for hours. Like I can, I can.
Man, House Hunters used to do it for me, and then I just
I'm
it
not
doesn't
big,
hit the same notes anymore.
I'm not a big House Hunter International, but the regular one, oh my god. All right, fellas. I don't know what we were just talking about, but it sounded like a good time. Only if you guys were privy to what we're talking about right before we go in the air, you'd really enjoy.
Cutthroat Kitchen was an all-timer.
I hated that show.
Really?
In it. Oh, yes. It's just not real. It's not real. Like this is the premise of it.
Use this iron to please and make the greatest.
I just watch cooking videos mostly. I don't really
Cutthroat, and I felt bad because they stuck Alton in that. He wasn't happy, but it wasn't. It would be like, all right, like I want to see the cooks and the chefs show me what they can do. Don't tell me, all right, hey, you got to make a chicken breast and make some sort of enchiladas. Both of you have to make enchiladas, but you over here, the only utensils you get to use is a switchblade. Like to cook it with. That's only I can't use any. I can't use a spatula. No,
nope.
You get to nope. And then we're not going to tell the judges what. Like this dude. I mean, I'm using somebody, and then hey, you get to cook with one arm behind your back and your shoes tied together, and you can only use a kid beach shovel. That's the only thing you can use.
And you exclusively are left-handed, by the way.
Yes,
you're right-handed, but now you can only use your left hand.
Yes, and you got to make beef Wellington.
It's. I mean, it sounds like that food would turn out terrible.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
And you have 5 by the end. You're going to win $500. Congratulations.
Yeah. Hey, but Tournament of Champions sucked me right in. I roll with anything guy related. Okay, sorry. You get that out. As we said, what would you do? Food Network, HGTV. You make it. It's compelling. It's compelling. I think I go HGTV. All right. Anyway, the boys getting the rings tonight. I hope they're not extremely gaudy, although I think they will be. I just
have you seen a Super Bowl ring?
I know, but they're going to be. But I want to see if somebody's going to have the balls to go the other way. Like somebody have the balls to go the other way. This last one
look like class rings.
Just a classic, right? Like give me a wedding ring type one. That's what I want with just a little Chiefs little emblem right there. And I mean, it sucks for those guys. This is your first one, and you don't, and it's the wedding ring, like type of look. But no, man, this last one the Chiefs had didn't it take off and become a brooch or a pendant? Like you could take the time. What are we doing here, man? Like I mean, we don't have a roof on Arrowhead, but this ring does. We can we got retractable roofs on the rings. Like, what are we doing here? I just want somebody to maybe go the other way. Just give me a classic one.
Somebody's definitely lost the top of one of those rings.
Absolutely, and I know who it is.
Clyde.
No, it's Andy's wife. It's Tammy. I believe Tammy was wearing it as a brooch one time, and she's lost it. And she hasn't had the heart to tell Andy, and he doesn't know yet. But she's been hiding it in her jewelry box.
Do you think Kadarius knows where it's at?
No, Kadarius doesn't know. Kadarius may not have gotten one.
Do you think he's there tonight?
Oh hell yeah, he ain't missing this. He may miss practice, but he ain't missing this. No, not a chance. Not a chance. I know. Travis and his bangs are there. Can we pull over on the side of the road on that real quick? Like, I'm a big Travis fan. And really, I've been a big fan of a lot of things that he does, from all of his shows when he was doing whatever he was doing with all of those young ladies, um, and the fun he's had, all he's done. You got to fight for your right to party. I love it all. These bangs are not working for me. I don't even know if that's what you call it. It's just the over, like, I mean, you guys have more experience with that style of hair than I do. Basically, I'm saying you all are white and I'm black. It looks, I don't know what it's called. It looks like their bangs. It's like it's laying over further ahead. And I'm like,
Ron, I got to send you a picture of me from like high
is that
school, like freshman year of college. That was my go-to.
so? What would that be called? Are those bangs? That's what it looks like to me. It looks
I
like
guess
they're-
it was called I don't know what to do with this when I did it. And he is far too wealthy and far too famous to not know what to do with his hair.
Well, it's clear this is clearly done on purpose. I mean,
Yeah.
he's not. I mean,
There's someone who tells
he's
him
never done this.
this is the new thing you should try out.
Yeah,
Who do you think that is?
Yeah, I think we all on 3. 1, 2, 3. Taylor. Say mom.
Hey, I assume he has a stylist or something.
I think Donna is the one saying, I think you might want to go here. Donna, or maybe Ed. Maybe Ed. I want Ed to I
Kiley's
can't
just out here like, hey, Travis, I've got an idea for you.
like Jason's got to be killing him. I mean, Jason's got to be killing him. Like, bro, what are you doing? Like, I mean, it's I don't like it at all, and it's turning me off. And I want him to change it immediately.
Which one did you like more? Because I know how much you hated this other option. Travis Kelce's bangs right now or his mustache from last year?
I would rather have the mustache.
Damn.
I'd rather have the stash. These bangs, like I can't notice anything else. I couldn't even notice the suit or anything. I don't like. Did he think he got too drunk at that parade, so he's got to do something different? Like, I don't like this.
I think the mustache is still in right now. Like the mustache has been really popping for a little bit here.
Yeah, I hated that look too, but I hate this 10 times more. I do. He spoke earlier with that bad hair, and again, it was like, honest to God, I had to cut it off and just listen audio because I can't pay attention to his words because of that hair overlapping. It's just so bad. I can't even concentrate on the words. So I had to just listen to it via audio. And he said they keep talking about retirement with him, and he brings it up a little bit, but he said he's going to let this thing roll until the wheels fall off. Give me a heavy workload, baby. He said wear and tear me, baby. He's ready to go. I think I know this has been a buzzword for another sport, but I think Andy Reid, and I hope they are, I think they should really consider doing like Greg Popovich, San Antonio Spurs with Tim Duncan and Manu Ginobili. Just get some. I mean, the originators of the load management. I think they should do that because I'm gonna tell you what, fellas. I was one. Now I would argue it dead with BK and you two that I still felt even at the end of the year that Travis was still the number one guy in terms of who their number one receiver was. But I did think he took a step back. And then he played those 4 damn games in the playoffs. And I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like he looked like vintage Travis Kelce. It was like he got a little rest at the end. He had that bye week they made up for him. He had only played 15 games because he missed the first one too. Like he was, and he brought that and brought it in the first game against the Dolphins in that cold storm. His numbers could have been bigger than that day if he didn't drop passes. And then he was dominant against Buffalo. And then he went against the one guy that everybody thought could contain tight ends and just destroyed him and completely made them have to change the way they played Kyle Hamilton because he was that good. And then in the Super Bowl, my God, he ran as fast as he ever ran in the fourth quarter to set up the field goal. And he was unstoppable in the second half too in that game. And so I'm thinking, no, he still has the ability to be prime Travis Kelce. I just think obviously it spurts. And I honest to God think that they should, and especially in some of these games, I mean, some of these terrible teams they got, like who they got they got the Broncos who are bad twice. I think the Raiders are going to be bad. Who they got in the NFC? Who's that? The Panthers.
They got the Saints. They got the NFC South in general.
Like, hey man, I think they cut them offensive possessions in half. His plays, his snaps count. Cut that sucker in half. I just think that should be something they should entertain, because what we saw from him at the end of the year and in the postseason, like that guy you got to have. And clearly there's ability there. I just don't know if you drag him, he's playing like he used to, and he's playing 60 snaps a game, that you'll get that.
So I think back to 2018. I remember that postseason run. We were talking about the Chiefs going up against Rob Gronkowski, and that was unfortunately the year that the Chiefs lost to the Patriots, and Gronk went full Gronk against Eric Berry and ripped all of our hearts out. But during the regular season, he didn't look the same. Like he looked physically like he wasn't all the way there. He finished that regular season with 680 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now, he did play in 13 games, so he didn't miss a few games. And physically, I think he was legitimately banged up. But that season, he only had 470 snaps. For context on that, to put in perspective what that means compared to where Travis Kelce, for example, was at just a year ago, he ended up finishing the season, Kelce did last year, with about 600 snaps. So he played an extra like 150 snaps compared to what Gronk was playing by the end of his Patriots career. You can cut this back a little bit. You can cut back 5, 10 passing snaps per game, and you're not going to be in a situation where you're just like totally missing him in a way where you're not putting him out on the field anymore. I think they tried to do some of this early last year. You could see it. You could see the snap count from what he was doing against Jacksonville and Chicago early on to where he was at by the end of the season. Yeah, like they were trying to manage his snaps, and then you got like midway through the year and he goes against Philadelphia, for example, and that's where they really started boosting it up. And I was like, whoa, okay, they have realized this offense is unsustainable. It is not functional without Travis Kelce playing a full allotment of snaps. I think their hope this year, now that you have Hollywood Brown, you hopefully have Xavier Worthy whenever he's able to get back onto the football field. You've got a year in Rashee Rice that you can trust on the football field, even if you can't off of it. And that should take a decent amount of the load off of Travis Kelce. I'm still skeptical on if they're going to do it, though, man. Like, do you think they're actually going to commit to this over the course of the entirety of the season? Serda, do you?
I think they'll try. And I think that there's going to be some games where he insists on playing more, and they're just going to say in and let him play, and then it'll just keep going from there and spiraling. Where Kelce will be like, "Put me in. This is ridiculous," and they'll eventually just be like, "All right, fine, put him in the game," and then it'll just go like it did last season.
But it has to start now. Like the conversation has to start now, right? Like it's got to be like, "Hey, man. That dude right there, we want to be able to have that ability to have that guy at the end of the season, man." And you're seeing him, and he's getting, like, as he's gotten older, we're seeing more knickknacks. We're seeing more injuries to where he couldn't start the season, and that lingered for a bit. Now, I do think you can look at it with some of these bigger games, like, like, hey, they play the Texans later, or, they play, maybe week 1 and week 2 when he's at his freshest, when they play the Ravens and the Bengals. There's a feel of maybe you could look at doing things differently there, or Buffalo later or something like that. But, like, they've got some games where, you play the Carolina Panthers. Hey, boss, we got 28, 29 big snaps for you today, baby. And we should be able to get through this. Hey, man, Denver, man, mile high, man. Chill out, baby. You got.
Dude, I'm looking at that Saints game going into the bye. Hey, go ahead and take 2 weeks off leading into that San Fran road game.
Hey, Brandon, I swear before God, if they slide in there and say, "Hey, man, we're gonna get you. We're gonna get one game," I don't mind it. I really don't. I really don't. Hopefully, they get a bye at the end, and hopefully, hell, maybe they get another one. Like that playoff performance like shook me because I didn't think he was capable of bringing that to the table anymore. I didn't think that was capable, and that's the last thing we saw. It's just to me he can do it just which we see with older players. He can do it in spurts, not like he could all the time. Like, hey, that 1,000-yard streak, hell, that's over. So we ain't got to feel like we got to force ourselves to do that. It's about keeping him fresh and keeping him healthy and ready to go for that back end. And like you said, BK, like this offense is not having to have Sky Moore out there playing all of the snaps that he has, and you're trying to depend on him. They're not having to have Kadarius Toney or all these. Hell, they don't need Justin Watson, right? They have now big play options where you feel like, hey, we can survive if Travis isn't out there full time. We can survive when you got guys like I said, you said Worthy, and obviously the big new one, Hollywood Brown.
Yeah, and like I think we just underestimate how hard it is for this offense to function in the playoffs without Kelce, and I don't want to think about what that would look like. But the thing that's been really unique about this run with Kelce, man, is he's been healthy for them when they make it to the playoffs. Like he's a guy that's always available for the most part. Now he has obviously some stuff that he deals with, but he's always out there. And that's something that you don't want to take for granted. And so this year, if it means pulling back a little bit, so be it. Here's the entire list of NFL tight ends age 35 or older to put up at least 700 yards in a season, Ron. And that's where we're at right now with Travis Kelce. Tony Gonzalez, he did it 3 times. Shannon Sharp did it once in Denver in 2003. Ben Watson did it in 2015. End of list. Kelce's already breaking all of the record books for NFL tight ends, and he will continue to do so as he continues to perform for the Chiefs. But they're going to have to pull back a little bit. And Ron, I was thinking about this a little bit today, and I'm falling for it. I'm officially falling for it. I think Hollywood Brown is the best wide receiver not named Travis or Tyreek Hill that Mahomes has played with so far in his career.
He hasn't even played with him yet.
I think he's got a chance to have a monster season, dude. Like I don't know how or why this is overcoming me, but I saw the comments today. I was listening to our podcast that we had where you can listen to Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Serda does a fantastic job of getting that out on the Foolish Club Media podcast feed. And I heard Patrick Mahomes talk about how he can't believe that Hollywood Brown had to sign with them on a 1-year contract. He was talking about the adjustments that he's already made and the way that he is like intellectually on a level that a lot of the receivers just aren't at this early on when they're working with Pat. And I couldn't help but think this guy's going to have 1,200 yards. Like this guy's going to put together just such an absurd season with Patrick Mahomes. And we're going to look back and be like, I can't believe the league allowed them to get him on a 1-year deal worth like $7 million. I'm falling for it. Hook, line, and sinker, dude.
Man. Of course I am too.
Please,
like, of course I am.
Are you hold on? Are you falling for what he said? The best wide receiver he's played with, mind you, he's not played with him yet. The best wide receiver he's played with, not named Tyreek Hill.
I mean, what's the second best option? McCole Hardman has the second most yards of any wide receiver that he's played with.
I mean, I really think that I like Rashee Rice's talent more than like.
Let's go.
More than I think like a lot of like film nerds and like analytics people do. Like there's a lot of last year was like, oh, well, they only used him in this role and this was the only way they could make him effective. And like, I just think that like what I saw from him and like his ability to break tackles and create after the catch. And like, if he can just develop a little bit is a more like is a decent route runner downfield. Like I feel like Rashee Rice has potential to be a kind of wide receiver that Patrick Mahomes has never had in being like a guy that can win and be physical and go up and get the football and break tackles and do all of that
Juju
stuff.
Plus. He's got Juju Plus type of talent.
Well, he's a real tall.
But Hollywood is, I think, the most talented, just like pure wide receiver that they've had since Tyreek Hill, because I've mentioned it before, like his time in Arizona gets a bad rap because Arizona was just garbage when he was there, and Kyler Murray got hurt. And then when Kyler Murray came back, like it just never really connected. And then there's some injuries and stuff. But like if he stays healthy, Hollywood Brown is a 1,000-yard wide receiver in the NFL. The problem is he's had some injuries, but if the Chiefs can find a way to keep him healthy, I do think there's a case to be made that he's going to be the most consistent wide receiver on the team this year. Like once we see how long Rashee Rice is going to get suspended for.
Yeah, my initial thinking is Rashee Rice. Now I think Sammy Watkins is hard to judge. We're just saying behind Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, because Tyreek is so clearly number one.
I personally disagree. I think Sammy Watkins is the second most naturally talented receiver that he's had. He can't stay on the field. I mean, nobody has talked about Tenderfoot more than me. But I mean, he has speed, size. Like he has the size that Rashee Rice has, and he has big time speed. So I think he's hard to measure just how much time he had, off and injured, and he was just rarely ever the number one threat. I mean, if you go think about that Jacksonville game, they opened up the season one time with, and he caught like a slant and just took it to the house, and nobody could tackle him. That was a decent Jacksonville team. We said, Jesus Lord, hell, that ain't even Tyreek.
That was the most productive game of his entire Chiefs career, though.
Whatever. Oh, he's had a few productive games. I don't know. He's had some good playoff moments. Let's calm down. He had a pretty productive Patriot playoff game, a Titan playoff game, made a pretty big play when he dusted Richard Sherman in the Super Bowl against the Niners. So, calm down. I can't believe you were coming at receiver play.
I just think there's a case to be made that Hollywood, so far in his NFL career, has never been in as good of a situation to get the most out of what he brings to the table as a player.
Also, dude, the first 6 weeks of the season, he's going to be their number one wide receiver. Like, he's going to put up bonkers numbers for 6 weeks. For 6 weeks without Rashee Rice. And he's going to build up all this chemistry as the number one target, not named Travis Kelce, in that offense. He's already been 1,000-yard NFL wide receiver. He's as productive as any. He's more proven than any wide receiver not named Tyreek that has come into this offense. He's coming in while still in his prime. This is not a guy like Juju that was broken. This is not a guy like Sammy that was broken. He's healthy right now and seemingly in a good place to be able to come in and really take advantage of the opportunity there. I think he's going to have a monster season, man. I think about what McColl was able to do in this offense in 2021, and now I think about what a talented wide receiver could do with that exact same role in 2024 with this quarterback, given the fact that they are once again going to start emphasizing the downfield passing game again. I don't think the timing could be any better. I don't think that the talent is up for debate. 1,200 yards. I think he's going to get 1,200 yards.
Yeah, listen, I think these are two different conversations. One, I'm with you. I think he is in the perfect position. Yeah, okay, he's playing with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Prior to that, he was with Kyler Murray and
Greg Roman his entire career as a Raven.
Ken Wisenhunt. I don't know who was in Arizona. Probably Ken Wisenhunt had probably moved on by then, but he was. I mean, yes, he's in the best situation possible, and yes, I think he's got a chance to put together a big time season. But the question is, and the thought was, he's the best receiver that he's worked with, outside of Tyreek Hill, and here's my concern with him, and why I like Rashee Rice. I think Rashee Rice has chunk big playability. We've seen it. My big concern with him, I think he's going to put up numbers, but I also believe I have concern on, hey, if we got to have it 3rd down and 8, we need to have this right here. Like that's not who I'm thinking about. And it's not just for his size, whatever. It's not I think big play, but I'm thinking about the last drive. They had to have it to kick the field goal against the Niners in the Super Bowl. One of the big major plays was Rashee's big ass coming across the middle and catching that dig route and turning it up and getting a huge first down on 3rd down. Hell, he missed him 2 different times for game-winning touchdowns in which he ran great routes in the middle with his size and his body. That's my only thing. Because, I'll say this right now. I'll ask you guys both this. If Rashee Rice hadn't done stupid and was on this team, who do you think would be the number one wide receiver, and put up numbers? Him or Hollywood? Because I think it would be Rashee.
In terms of catches, I think it's very clearly Rashee. I think he's going to get more targets this year because of the role that you were just describing there. If you're talking about yards, I think it might end up being closer than we expect if they were both fully healthy and available in week 1. That's obviously not going to be the case. But in this hypothetical, I think it'd be close because I think you're expecting more big plays out of Hollywood. And so they're just going to go about it so differently. I think Rashee would probably end up with more yards, though. I think you're right on that.
They certainly complement each other. But I think if Rashee is here, he's considered, the number one receiver. Obviously Travis, but he's considered the number one receiver. But I do, like I'm saying, I like the addition, and I like the way they all complement each other. I just think Rashee has the ability to do more than what.
I think they're just Hollywood opposites in what they do.
Yeah, they're different.
When we talk about doing more, I think I don't even know that I agree with that. I actually think that Hollywood can do more.
I don't care. I don't agree with that.
I just think Rashee's yak ability is something that they just don't have anybody who can replicate that. And I think it's really, really valuable. And when defenses have to worry about Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy deep down the field, Rashee Rice is just going to obliterate dudes across the middle of the field.
Totally agree with that. The place that I would say, I think Hollywood is a better route runner than Rashee Rice at this point in their respective careers. Now, that could change. Rashee could get better, and he could, when he is at Hollywood's age, you might say then that Rashee Rice will be then a better route runner than Hollywood is today. But I think as of today, if you just look at them compared to one another, I think Hollywood's a better route runner. I think he's a better deep threat. I think he's a guy that, if you're trying to go across the middle, remember those deep over routes that they used to love hitting Tyreek Hill on? They don't really have that in the playbook over the last couple of seasons because they didn't have anybody that was capable of getting open in that area because you need to be fast and quick to be able to do that. I think Hollywood is going to live in that part of the field. And so I just, that's another thing that I don't think Rashee can do. So if you're looking for the number of things that they can do, I think there's actually more with Hollywood. There's just one thing you're not going to ask him to do, and that's run those drags right across the middle where you're potentially going to get hit by a linebacker because he's my weight. He's 170 pounds soaking wet, and that's not the guy you want making those kinds of plays.
See, you've been sucked in by Hollywood Brown. I'm sure coming up, Serda will be sucked in by Xavier Worthy at some point. I'm sure that we'll get that from.
Oh, give it time, man. You know we're both going to fall for that one.
He's ready. Yeah, he's ready to go. I could see
hasn't been on the practice field. Got to see it first.
Practice and a half out of 11 practices. That's it. But I'm gonna tell you what, Patrick Mahomes, our leader, he's tried to suck me in, and I've already mentally prepared myself. Mahomes up here talking about having to go up against this great defense every day. It's just making us better. It's one of the best camps I've been a part of. You can see these guys are just growing together. They've got a standard they set, and it's making everybody better, and they're building on it. They're building on what they did last year. This one has been the best off seasons I've been a part of with this defense. And see, I have already mentally prepared myself that this defense is going to take a step back. Right? When you lose what has been called the Michael Jordan of cornerbacks by somebody, that was rather aggressive. But when you lose L'Jarius Sneed, you lose Bill Gay, and you've got some injuries with Charles Omenihu, and you lose some moments in that secondary changes, which was a huge, huge strength for you last year. I've felt they're going to take and prepared myself that they're going to take a step back. But should I? Should I be riding with Mahomes? Because it sounds like Mahomes is thinking that they expect this team was this. They were number 2 overall in total defense, number 2 in scoring. They gave up 17.3 points a game. I feel like that's going to take a step back, but should I? The way that Mahomes is talking, should I? It don't really make sense to me.
So this is something that I've been grappling with, Ron. I don't know what to do with this defense because I really think they're going to be excellent. Like, I think they have a chance, and I look up and down the roster, and I'm like, man, they have so much depth, and they have so many guys that I look at, and I'm like, I think they have more in the tank compared to what we saw a year ago. Like, I think Brian Cook has a chance to be so good. Like, best safety we've seen in this defense type of good. And that's a high bar to clear, obviously. I think Drew Tranquil is awesome, and we didn't get to see him fully unleashed last year for most of the season. I think Chris Jones is going to be even better this year than he was last year because he missed all of training camp and wasn't up to 100% for like a month into the season. I think Shamari Connor has a chance to be really, really good, and Trent McDuffie's one of the best corners in the NFL. Like, that should be an awesome defense. And yet, we know how defenses work, dude. Like, stuff fluctuates on that side of the ball so much year to year because opposing offenses will find the thing that they can attack. And maybe this year that ends up being your number 2 corner. And we are overlooking the amount of impact that it is to not have L'Jarius Sneed out there. And instead of having Sneed on one side and McDuffie on the other, now you're going down, right? So it's Najee Johnson and Jalen Watson and Joshua Williams out there. And opposing teams say, we're exclusively attacking that. We're making sure that we have our best receiver against those guys as often as humanly possible, and we're exploiting it for you. And if that ends up happening, yeah, this isn't going to be the same defense as it was a year ago. But even then, they were probably the best or second best defense in the NFL last year. I think they're still going to be top 5 to 10. And with what I think the offense should be capable of this year, where they should be a much better version of themselves now, I am not super worried about the defense dropping down because I don't think it's going to be dramatic. Even if they get worse, I don't think it's going to be bad.
Yeah. I still think they're a top 10 defense easy. I'm not really worried about it at all. I have so much faith in Spags and that coaching staff to get everything out of these guys. Like, I think obviously they need more from like George Karlaftis, and they're going to need more from Felix this year while they try to get Amenahu back on the field and all of that. And yeah, losing L'Jarius Sneed is a concern, but I like the depth that they have in the cornerback room. And those guys, yeah, they're unproven, and you're probably not going to expect any of them to go out and play like L'Jarius Sneed did last season. But like, that's what you have Trent McDuffie for. That's what you got all this depth in the secondary and in the safety room for, to try to help cover up some of those issues back there. And I just feel like there's still there's still potential in Jalen Watson and Joshua Williams, and Najee Johnson was a guy that they really loved in training camp last year. Like, I just think that they're too well coached and they're too talented, and there's too much depth for them to totally fall apart or something like that. And I think it was Chris Jones who said this week that like Spags keeps reminding them of his Giants team that like went from the second best defense in the NFL to like the 27th best defense or worst defense in the NFL the following season. And like, that stuff's important. And I think that they know that, and they know that like, hey, you know, Mahomes and Kelce and everybody, they get all the headlines, but we won that ring last season, like our side of the ball. And I think those guys know that, and they're bringing a lot of those guys back.
Yeah, I'm not going to get suckered in from Patrick. I think they have a chance to be top. They could get into the top 10. Last year, I think they were one of the best defenses we've seen in a long time.
Yeah,
right. I know the Ravens were rated ahead of them, but the things the amount of opponents in the 20 whatever games they played, they held under 21 points is insane. Right, like and the things that they were able to do was crazy. Like, it's just hard to look and see. All right, boy, they like this team got off on them. Nobody did, but this is my thing is they've had 2 guys. We obviously know Sneed, but they had another guy in Willie Gay who at times could just. Like, these are guys who can just go and make plays. Like, at times. I don't think Willie as much. But, like, there are just moments with his speed, and he could go and just make plays. make
You know who might
plays.
be an underrated loss, Ron, by the way, like on that point, is Mike Edwards. Mike Edwards
Mike
made
Edwards.
a lot of plays for this team a year ago, and especially in the postseason, that was a guy that really came up big for them, and it provided veteran depth to where when Brian Cook went down, it wasn't a catastrophe. It wasn't the end of the world. They were able to make do, and this year, if one of your safeties were to go down, it does put you in a really difficult spot where you're probably playing like either rookie Jaden Hicks or a guy in Deion Bush that you don't really want to play out there at safety, or you're having to move Shamari Connor back to safety, and now it exploits a potential weakness for you at nickel. You don't have that same amount of depth there, and that's similar with Willie Gay at the linebacker position.
You don't, but I at least feel like, all right, Shamari Connor can at least move back there. We could do something. Like, I loved Leo Chanel when he was a backup. I still can't get out of my mind. And listen, this shouldn't be up against him, but how he just could not touch Lamar Jackson on the big touchdown that they had in the playoff game, where he just couldn't get him down on the ground. But I liked him as a backup. I thought, boy, they got big time depth when Drew Tranquill was a backup. Now these guys are in lead roles and have to be guys you depend on, and then the depth behind them. Hopefully what's it Cochran? Hopefully he has improved from the last time I saw him getting worked, and you don't have to go there. It gave me some real Ben. What's my man Ben Lehman? Is that his name?
Ben
5'6".
Neiman.
Ben Neiman 5'6". That good number. He gave me some real Ben Neiman vibes. So hopefully they don't have to do that. So I think those are two. Obviously, we know L'Jarius Sneed just made plays on his own. Like, he was the best corner in football, I believe, last year, and just made plays. Not just he just blanketed people, but he got turnovers and did things that led to turnovers. But I think Willie Gay did that too, and I think there is such a, to me, at the very least, unproven drop off at those two spots. Like, you're going from a guy, L'Jarius Sneed, who made those type plays, to Josh Williams, right? Like, there's a big drop off. You're going from Willie Gay, because I distinctly remember against the Bengals a fourth down that he just went in, a 4th down and 1 as they were about to score. He just went in and just shut it down and then crawled all the way to the bench. Like, from his, like, he just had that ability to make plays. So I think their defense will be good enough because the offense will be so much better.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I don't think they've got to, like, this is going to be an offense that be like, hey man, if we get 6 field goals, baby, we good. I don't think that will be the case. So I think they will be helped by that. But no, I can't get with the thing of like, hey man, they're going to pick up right where they left off.
It's always a sliding scale. And this team has now won with a below average offense and an excellent defense, and they've won with a below average defense and an excellent offense. And as long as you've got either a unit that's excellent or both units are really good, you've got a chance to win when Patrick Mahomes is at quarterback. And I think this year, at a minimum, both units are going to be really good for the Chiefs.
Yeah, Serda, it does feel like this potentially may be the most balanced between the two. Like, it doesn't. It feels like, to me, I'd be floored if they're both not in the top 12 of total offense and total defense.
This has been several years in the making now. Like, this is what the Tyreek Hill trade was. This is what, like, the draft class starting with like Nick Bolton and Creed Humphrey and all those guys. Like this is the season they've kind of been building towards, with the depth and balance on both sides of the ball, because before that, we saw how bad it was on the defensive side of the ball, and it was all offense, and the offensive line fell apart, and the defense just wasn't going to be sustainable. And like, this is what they've been building to. And last season was supposed to be the year that they couldn't get over the hump, and they still won it all. And this is the season they were really looking ahead to say, like, this is where the mini rebuild has a chance to like step up and be something special. And yeah, I'm pretty confident that it's going to be.
The last 2 years, they were, in terms of yards per game rank, first offense in 2022 yards per game and 11th on defense. Last year, I'm actually surprised by this. They were 9th in yards per game and second offensively and second defensively. So I'll just ask this. Do you think that both units will finish the season in the top 8? It would be the first time in the Andy Reid era in Kansas City that we would see a Chiefs offense and defense finish total offense, total defense top 8 in the league.
I mean, I'm very confident in the offense. And there are just a couple of spots on the defense that I want to see. I want to see Shamari Connor exclusively playing the slot, if that's what he's going to do and how that works. And then the second corner. Because right now, if you tell me like, all right, how many guys in that secondary in coverage that's going to be in coverage that I have really good confidence in, it's just McDuffie. Right now.
I feel good about Cook,
but if he's in coverage with tight ends and things. But I mean, like the corners and the guys that are going to be in coverage matched up. Not to say they can't improve, but just right now there's just a bit of an unknown for those guys being in those roles.
I would have them top 8 in both, and I think it's because I would see them getting a significant improvement in terms of the turnover margin this year compared to where they were at last year. Yeah, that could really help them a lot if they're able to force more turnovers and offensively just avoid the turnover bug that they had a year ago.
Yeah. All right, guys. Stay safe. Stay lucky. Especially you, Steve. We are out.